Imagine standing on a bridge nearly 1,000 feet above a roaring river, the wind pressing on you as the ground sways beneath your feet. That's not a movie stunt. It's the Royal Gorge Bridge in Colorado, one of the highest suspension bridges in America. Every step rattles the nerves. Every gust of wind feels like a test of will. Why do people willingly step onto something that terrifying? In this film, we uncover bridges that don't just connect land, they test human limits, daring us to balance between beauty and danger. Before we journey deeper into the engineering marvels, make sure to subscribe and let's cross into the world's most daring megastructures together. Sometimes the most dangerous part of a bridge isn't its strength at all, but the way it makes you feel. For some crossings, the challenge isn't hurricanes or earthquakes, but the quiet dread pulsing through every step or every turn of the wheel. Consider Deception Pass Bridge in Washington State. At first glance, it looks ordinary, a steel arch structure linking two forested islands, but when the Pacific fog rolls in and drapes itself across the trusses, the bridge becomes something else entirely. Below, tidal currents churn like flooded rivers, reaching speeds up to 8 knots, swirling in a chaos that has swallowed boats whole. Building here in the 1930s meant anchoring foundations into sheer rock cliffs and assembling steel pieces in windswept air, all above waters that gave workers no second chance if they fell. From the deck, it's only 180 feet down, but that drop feels endless when mist hides where water meets sky. Add the name Deception Pass, born from shipwreck and misdirection, and the crossing becomes an experience that chills more than it comforts. And yet, it is far from the only place where fear itself becomes the bridge. Thousands of miles away in Colorado, the Royal Gorge Bridge pushes that fear to an entirely new scale. Suspended nearly 1,000 feet above the Arkansas River, it held the title of the world's highest bridge for over 70 years. Built in 1929 in just 6 months, its suspension cables carry a wooden plank deck that still sways gently in the canyon winds. Walk across, and every vibration underfoot reminds you of just how little separates you from the abyss below. Tourists grip the rails, knuckles white, as the bridge trembles, a structure designed to endure but never to let you forget the height. Both Deception Pass and the Royal Gorge prove that danger isn't always collapsing steel or failing cables. Sometimes it's the unsettling knowledge that the ground has vanished beneath you, replaced by air, mist, and the raw power of nature itself. These are bridges that test not only engineering but courage. What makes bridges like these unforgettable is their strange duality, the way elegance and dread weave together in a single span. Take the Capilano Suspension Bridge in Canada. At first glance, it looks like a dream, a delicate thread of steel and timber stretched 450 feet across a cedar forest, swaying high above the Capilano River. By daylight, it's a postcard come alive, with sunlight pouring through the evergreens and tourists pausing to capture the perfect shot. But beauty here carries weight, literally. Those swaying planks rest on steel cables strong enough to hold the weight of a fully loaded passenger jet. When it first opened in 1889, it was nothing more than hemp ropes and wooden boards lashed together, and yet people still dared to cross. Today, the engineering is vastly improved, but the sensation remains the same. Step onto its narrow walkway and each footfall sets the bridge into motion, the deliberate flex that keeps it stable only amplifying the feeling of fragility. Glance down through the rising mist and the elegant arc suddenly feels like a trap. Logic says it is secure, but instinct whispers otherwise. Visitors grip the railing tighter, eyes fixed ahead, convinced that one slip could mean falling into the abyss. The bridge is perfectly safe, but its haunting beauty lingers long after the crossing is done. That psychological battle sharpens even further at the Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge in China. Suspended nearly 1,000 feet above the canyon floor, the bridge stretches like a blade of light between two sandstone cliffs. Most visitors begin their journey with the Bailong Elevator, a glass-walled lift bolted to the side of a sheer cliff, rising over 1,000 feet in under 2 minutes. As the ground drops away beneath them, the elevator delivers not just a ride, but a preview of the vertigo to come, carrying them straight into the heart of Zhangjiajie's floating mountains, where the glass bridge awaits. At first glance, it feels unreal, too delicate to hold the weight of a single person, let alone a crowd. Completed in 2016, this was once the longest and highest glass-bottom bridge in the world. Designed by Israeli architect Professor Chaim Dotan, the bridge was built not to dominate the landscape, but to vanish into it, blending modern engineering with nature's drama. Spanning more than 1,400 feet, engineers anchored massive suspension towers into the cliffs and strung steel cables across the void, a feat of precision in one of China's most rugged national parks. The deck itself is made of 120 panels of triple-layered tempered glass, each designed to bear heavy impacts and withstand thousands of footsteps. Engineers tested its strength by hammering the panels and even driving a car across them, proving they could withstand up to 40 tons of weight. This bridge is also more than a walkway. It hosts the world's highest bungee jump, sending thrill seekers plunging nearly 1,000 feet into the canyon below, and swings that dangle visitors into empty air for one of the planet's most daring rides. Yet despite all the calculations, despite the tests and reassurances, nothing prepares you for the view through the floor. The canyon yawning endlessly below your feet. Strength is not in question, only courage is. That is the paradox of Zhangjiajie's bridge, a marvel of engineering that terrifies because it reveals too much of the world beneath you. Far from the American West, fear takes a new shape on the Mount Titlis cliff walk in Switzerland. At first glance, it seems modest, just 300 feet long, hardly more than a suspension footbridge. But context changes everything. This walkway is perched at 10,000 feet above sea level, suspended between alpine cliffs where the air itself feels thin and sharp. Built in 2012 to mark the 100th anniversary of the Titlis Mountain Cableway, it was called the world's highest suspension bridge at the time. Anchored into sheer rock faces, its steel cables and grated floor are engineered to endure avalanches, blizzards and winds that sweep across the glacier. Yet those reassurances vanish the moment you step onto it. The bridge narrows to just 3 feet across, forcing visitors to walk single file. People wait in line for hours, not to conquer fear, but to feel it fully, suspended between mountain and sky. But sometimes fear is not just psychological, it is memory written in steel and stone. History holds reminders that bridges can and do fail. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington, known as Galloping Gertie, became infamous in 1940 when winds set the deck into violent oscillations. Drivers abandoned their cars as the roadway twisted like a ribbon, steel girders bending and snapping until the structure tore itself apart and collapsed into Puget Sound. It was a disaster, but also a lesson, one that reshaped modern engineering, giving birth to the science of aerodynamics in bridge design. And tragedy struck again decades later, far from America. In 2022, the Morbi Suspension Bridge in India, an elegant 19th century relic, was packed with holiday crowds when its cables suddenly gave way. In seconds, hundreds were thrown into the river below, more than 100 lives lost in a single evening. These stories are sobering reminders that fear alone is never enough. Bridges must not only inspire awe, they must earn trust through design, maintenance, and vigilance. Every failure pushes engineering forward, but the cost is always paid in human lives. That evolution is clearest in the mega projects of today. In northern India, the Chenab Bridge rises higher than the Eiffel Tower. Its arch stretched across a gorge so deep, the river below looks like a thread of silver. Built in a seismic zone where tremors and fierce winds are constant threats, it was fitted with special bearings that let the bridge absorb violent shocks without breaking. Each section of its 1,300-foot arch was hoisted by cable cranes strung across cliffs, a method born from necessity in terrain no machine could reach. In the end, more than 25,000 tons of steel came together to form the world's highest railway bridge, a structure that stands as proof that even the most hostile landscapes can be mastered with enough precision and ambition. Further east, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge quite literally redrew the map, 55 kilometres of causeways, tunnels and artificial islands binding 3 cities into a single pulse of trade and movement. In Turkey, the Çanakkale 1915 bridge reached even farther, claiming the longest suspension span on Earth at 2,023 metres, a deliberate number chosen to honour the nation's centenary. These structures are more than transport. They are national signatures where steel and concrete speak the language of pride as loudly as of engineering. Extreme bridges remind us of something profound. Survival at scale is never about conquering nature, but about learning to live within its terms. Some challenge our nerves with swaying decks and impossible heights, while others reveal how steel and ingenuity can bend earthquakes, oceans and storms to human will. Each span, whether it stretches across a canyon, a glacier, or an entire sea, is really a conversation with forces far greater than ourselves. So the question lingers. Which of these bridges would you dare to cross, and when you do, is the view worth the fear? Because in the end, a bridge is never just concrete and steel. It is trust suspended in the air, a leap of faith over the unknown. And no matter how bold the design, nature always writes the last line.